Normally, I like to talk about cases that have been solved and the killers convicted. But sometimes there's an unsolved case that grabs my attention so much I have to share it with y'all. Right now, that's the case of the Little Rock slasher who attacked 4 people, killing 3 starting in 2020. So let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Delaney, and I'm a true crime writer and big-time murder nerd. On this channel, I like to take deep dives into some of the worst cases, and I do tend to cuss a lot. So, if that sounds like your idea of a good time, go ahead and subscribe. If not, that's cool. You do you. Today, I want to stick around right here in my home state of Arkansas and an unsolved case that hasn't been getting much media coverage lately. I'm talking about a killer that some people have called the Little Rock Slasher or the River City Ripper or Jack Knife. I know it's kind of squicky to give these killers a clever nickname, but since we don't have his real name yet, it'll have to do. So, Little Rock is, if you don't know, the capital and largest city in Arkansas. It's not a huge city. Its population is just over 240,000 people, but it has more than its share of poverty and crime. It's ranked as the 10th most dangerous city for violent crimes in the U.S. Another Arkansas city, Pine Bluff, outranks it at number 4, giving Arkansas the dubious distinction of being the only state with 2 cities in the top 10 most dangerous. Anyway, in 2020, the pandemic seemed to make things even worse. It was one of the worst years for homicides on record, and Little Rock's 7 homicide detectives were carrying more than double the number of cases recommended by the DOJ. That summer, on August 22nd, 64-year-old Larry Eugene McChristian, originally from Yellville, was reported missing. 2 days later, on August 24th, someone walking along South Gaines Street in the early morning hours saw a man lying out on someone's front yard, obviously injured, and called 911. The man, who would later be identified as Larry McChristian, had been stabbed multiple times and was declared dead on scene. Homicide detectives canvassed the area, talking to neighbors and getting their security cam footage. Some of that footage actually showed part of the attack. In it, a suspect is shown walking north towards Gaines Street. He then stops and stabs Larry before walking away. Then he turns around and stabs him again and stands over him and watches him die. Unfortunately, though, the footage didn't show the suspect clearly enough to make an ID, and there weren't any other leads to go on. About a month later, on September 23rd, a friend of 62-year-old Jeff Welch, who was known to his friends as Old School, went to visit him at his home on West 12th Street. To his shock, he found Jeff slumped over on his front porch, not breathing, with an apparent puncture wound to his neck. He was also dead on scene. Initially, his case was only regarded as suspicious, but an autopsy determined that his wounds, multiple stab wounds, corresponded with a homicide. Little Rock police, who were already stretched too thin by the overwhelming number of homicides that year, worked the 2 cases separately, but they weren't coming up with any leads in either one. Several months went by, and the homicide rate in Little Rock continued to climb. The cases of Larry McChristian and Jeff Welch were going cold. Then, on April 11th, 2021, police were called to South Pulaski Street to respond to a possible stabbing. There, they found 41-year-old Deborah Walker bleeding out, but still alive. Police transported her to a nearby hospital, where she miraculously survived. Doctors were able to determine she had been stabbed 15 times. Once she had stabilized, Deborah told the investigators that she had been walking near the intersection of 19th and Marshall Streets when a man approached her, pulled out a knife, and began stabbing her. She was able to give a general description. Her attacker appeared to be a young black man with a slender build and standing over 6 feet tall. She couldn't tell which direction that he had fled in, though. Only 27 hours after the attack on Deborah, and only a block away, 40-year-old Marlon Anthony Franklin, who was experiencing homeless, was found stabbed to death. Now, Little Rock detectives began connecting the dots. Same MO, a blitz-style knife attack on random pedestrians. Same area, all within a 3-mile area near the 12th Street Police Station in Midtown. And even the same times, all of the attacks had happened between 1 and 4 a.m. The Little Rock PD was at first reluctant to publicly state it was the work of a serial killer, but soon enough, it was pretty clear that that's what was going on. In fact, following those last 2 attacks, the Little Rock PD was contacted by the FBI's behavioral analysis team, who offered them a profile of that suspected killer. Now, that profile hasn't been shared publicly, but I think we can deduce a couple of things. 1, he must live and or work in that area, since he was on foot and his victims seem to be just other people out on the street chosen at random. And 2, he must be on a night schedule, like maybe working a late shift, since all the attacks were committed in the early morning hours before dawn. After the April attacks, the Little Rock PD put out a safety alert in the area, paying particular attention to the homeless shelters, believing that that population would be most at risk. And now we have to talk about ShadowVision. About a week or so after the Little Rock PD's safety alert, this dude issued a public statement on his now deleted Facebook page. I know that the serial stabber is keeping an eye on my page here, so this is a threat to you. When I find you, I will show you what I do to serial killers. I am hunting you right now. Later, he posted, this message should take about a week to reach the Little Rock slasher. Meet me on the Maple Street Bridge this Friday night at 1 a.m. Me and you, 1v1, no cops and no citizens. Only one of us is going to walk off the bridge. I cannot roll my eyes hard enough. He seems to have started out as just a funny local character who would take pictures with kids, usually in his patrol area in North Little Rock, mostly around Argenta Plaza and the Coke dispenser at the Come and Go on JFK. Though he said he'd cross the river into Little Rock if he had to. Sometimes he would team up with other local real-life superhero LARPers like Master Legend, Tothian, and Antihero. These grown-ass men call themselves the Vortex Knights. Where do these people come from?
It has to be damp.
But then, after his post challenging the Little Rock slasher, ShadowVision was vaulted into the spotlight, including getting featured in Newsweek and British tabloids. In interviews and social media posts, he claims to have stopped a couple of armed robberies and, quote, exterminated 2 serial killers. We haven't heard about those incidents, he says, because they happened so long ago.
Sure, Jan.
Besides his martial arts skills, he's equipped with a steel helmet, bulletproof chest and back plates, shoulder pads, fringed arm cuffs to catch himself on downhill slides, handcuffs, 2 steel sais, and 2 katanas. But at first, no LARPmobile. ShadowVision patrolled on foot. So, after getting his name in the news, he started fundraising to help him buy a car, a Scion XD specifically. Somehow, he managed to score a free car from a used car lot in Russellville in what some say was a con, others say was essentially free advertising for the car lot. Either way, he got himself a ride, and according to his wiki, yes, he has a wiki, he moved out of the area in October of 2021 and hasn't been heard from since. All jokes aside, it might have worked. The increased media and police attention, that is. Because it seems as though the Little Rock slasher hasn't struck since those 2 attacks in April of 2021. Maybe he was scared off by all the media attention and just stopped. But I don't think that's very likely. Usually, serial killers like him don't stop until something stops them. Maybe he got arrested on some other charge and has been behind bars. Or maybe he moved on to another city where he hasn't been identified yet. One possibility could be Atlanta. Just a few months after those last attacks, in July of 2021, Catherine Janis was out walking her dog in Piedmont Park around 1 a.m. when both she and her dog were brutally stabbed to death. This attack was much worse than the ones in Little Rock, though, with more than 50 stab wounds to her face, neck, and torso. And it appears the killer carved letters in her torso. So far, no suspect has been arrested in that case, and it doesn't look like he struck again, at least in Atlanta. Could it be the same killer? Possibly. Since the Little Rock slasher still hasn't been caught, police are asking for the public's help in finding him. Besides his general description, slim, a little over 6 feet tall, younger black man, he seems to have a distinctive gait and keeps a nighttime schedule. He probably lived in the area of Midtown, south of I-630 in Little Rock, and might have moved sometime after April of 2021. There's a reward of $20,000 for information that leads to his arrest. If you have any information, please call the tip line at 501-371-4636 or email asklrpd@littlerock.gov. So that's all I've got for the Little Rock slasher. Had you heard of this guy or ShadowVision? Let me know in the comments. And do you have any theories about what might have happened to him or why he stopped killing? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy my videos, go ahead and subscribe. Till next time.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more. You can help me make more true crime content by supporting me on Patreon, where for as little as a cup of coffee, you can get early access to videos, bonus content, and free Murder Nerd merch. The link is in the description.